Hour 2 Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles, McLennan, a little role play level of concern. In about a half an hour, role play level of concern, where certain roles will be played. You want a little teaser on some of the roles that would be played?
Yes.
Okay. Easton Cowan is one of them. The Vancouver Canucks is one of them.
Oh.
Fox Sports is one of them. Right? Can kind of maybe put two and two together on that and see where we're going here. So, well, it speaks to the greatness of Brady that people are just. I think there's a lot of people that want it to just be a disaster, so they can. And I guess I'm probably putting myself in these shoes. Well, I'll be like, this guy, yeah, exactly. He's better looking than me. He's more athletic than me. He's richer than me. He's lived this incredible life. Give me broadcasting, Tom. Give me one thing where I can say you are not in the same competitive range, but chances are he'll figure it out. And he's a smart guy. He knows what he's doing. It's just a matter of him finding that pop, finding the entertainment value.
Everybody needs to find that pop, but at first glance, did you say, is he one of those guys? Because we've had all kinds of people come through here where they try this out, they want to try this out. And I don't know if you guys do the same thing, but I've had some where I'm like Frank. You could tell Frank Corrado, you say, give that guy some reps, he's going to be dynamite. That's what he is. But there's other people you're like, I don't know about that. I don't know about that, about Brady.
Well, and you look at what Peyton Manning's doing. Peyton's crafted like his own thing, where he's watching a ball game and he's talking with his brother, and now Belichick's on and he's producing these things, and that works so well for him.
But I think I think Peyton Manning doing the Brady, doing color would be so good.
I think they need to flip. Exactly. I think Manning in the booth would be so energetic, so alive, so on top of it, and Brady in front of a whiteboard saying, "This is how this is working out. Watch what this guy does here." Like they're both brilliant football minds. They both obviously want to engage in the public eye, which is pretty intriguing when you think of it, because those guys were more than capable of just being team presidents if they wanted to, owners if they wanted to. Like those guys could go down the Michael Jordan road, Derek Jeter road, just say, I'm just the owner of the team or the president. I'm going to own something here. These guys are in front of the camera, opening themselves up to critique, to applause, to possibly making mistakes. Like there's a lot of things that they're doing, but on a massive profile, like in terms of the audience that is tuning in for these games.
But Manning has the personality.
He does.
We've seen it. We've seen Manning's personality hosting Saturday Night Live, like guys on commercials. He's self-deprecating. He makes fun of his big head. He's on those roasts.
Yeah.
Like that. I think Brady's trying to embrace that. But all we've known of Tom Brady is just winning and stiff because he's right beside Bill Belichick. He was lumped in with Bill Belichick for years.
Yeah.
We didn't know his personality. We didn't know anything. Now, all of a sudden, he's trying to loosen up a little bit, and it looks like he's trying too hard. It doesn't come natural. Where with Manning, the Manning brothers are giving it to each other like they're natural. They're
great.
Rock stars. They're so good.
They were in every commercial for a reason, because they can actually act and do it and make a punchline land, and they have their own personality. And what's amazing is Belichick's in it too. Like when you think about Tom Brady and Bill Belichick are two media darlings right now. They are stepping foot in the media landscape. Bill Belichick is everywhere. Tom Brady is on Fox obviously all the time, calling games. Right. He's doing different TV hits and radio hits. And there's the Mannings too. Like it's great for the audience that's what's happened here. I can't think of an equivalent in other sports.
Don't kid yourself, Hayes. Like everyone's like, oh, you would never have guessed that those two guys would have ended up in the media. Tom Brady got $375 million.
I understand that.
And I'm sure Billy Belichick, every hit he does on McAfee, he's getting 10 G's.
He's making a fortune.
A fortune,
and
man.
There's so much money in NFL media.
Yeah.
American NFL media is the king. There's nothing that comes close to it. They're all making a fortune. The Mannings own the production company. So they're making a fortune on everything that hits, everything that they do. And they already have hundreds of millions of dollars. So they have a lot of time and a lot of money to play with. I'm just saying, those are probably the two best quarterbacks of the last 25 years, not named Mahomes. Like the two faces of football. And you could throw Bill Belichick in there too. The three maybe most talked about individuals in the NFL for 25 years are like Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, and they're all doing like the media right now, talking football. You know, like in 20 years, do you see Sidney Crosby and Connor McDavid doing hockey media?
Again.
I don't think we'll ever hear from them.
Wayne Gretzky and Mark Messier.
But yet there's an example of it. Gretzky did eventually say, I'll try it. That's a good point. Like Gretzky's the equivalent of Tom Brady, and Gretzky's doing it, and he's figuring a way to make it work, and yet he's on a panel. He's not in the booth calling a game. And he's not creating on his own like Peyton is. That's the amazing thing about Peyton Manning. You can say, dude, you got 5 minutes to fill, go. And he will go and give you 5 minutes of content. That's incredibly difficult to do. And he's doing it.
We got to pull the video. If you should ask, we'll give it some time. But do you remember when Wayne Gretzky was on The Young and Restless?
Yes.
And they introduced him. This is Wayne from our Edmonton operation.
That was
that
good.
Acting is something else. We have to break the tape down on that.
He hosted SNL too, and it wasn't great, man. Remember? I've seen some clips on 99. It wasn't great. All right, joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline, here's our TSN hockey insider, Darren Dreger. What's up, Dregs?
Everything is good, Brian. How are the home runners going?
Oh, they're really flying, man. It's we're starting to get to a point where things are happening.
Nice.
And yet I got guys who are working on the house. Shout out Mike McLean, Muxie Builds, the whole crew. Awesome guys. My buddy Connor, who's there every day. Huge Pens fan. And I've been trolling him almost daily, saying Sid's leaving, man. He's out. He's leaving. And you know what? Because he's been a Pens fan his whole life, Dregs, he's like, dude, I got like 3 cups out of Sid, 4 cup finals.
They don't care.
Yeah,
in
like,
a sense, they don't care.
For more than that.
Exactly. They should be happy. And it sounds like Sid's going to stick around anyway.
Nah, you know what? You learn a lot when you're in the dentist chair, and that's what I learned last week. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, I'm not allowed to say anything. That's privileged information. I didn't even know you were there, Dregs. I had no idea. No idea. But good to have you back in the swing of things. Right in time for Jani Hakanpaa to sign his big 1-year deal here in Toronto. And I'm curious what happened over the last 2 months when on July 1st it felt like he was signing a 2-year deal. And now all of a sudden it's a 1-year deal, and it was pretty murky in between to get to this point.
Yeah, you know what? It's one of those situations where the player obviously wanted to play in Toronto. And, you know, there's no guarantee that there's going to be a perfect fit here. I mean, he looks like a third-pair guy who can play up or down the lineup. He's an excellent penalty killer. You know, he gets in the way, as most guys who are 6'7" do, just based on the wingspan. He's got that right shot. Provided he can stay healthy, they see opportunity. But I think Brad Treliving played this out pretty well. And look, there wouldn't have been a strong market for Nick Robertson. And I'm talking offer sheet, but you do leave yourself open a little bit, right? So Hakanpaa and his camp are willing to be patient. And it worked out well for him now, right? Because he's rewarded with at least the 1-year deal. And the expectation is that he's healthy and he'll be good to go and ready for camp. But the Maple Leafs felt like they'd expose themselves a little bit if they put Hakanpaa under contract, got the deal signed, and now Nick Robertson isn't signed. You know, an offer sheet, a low-end offer sheet, could have happened similarly to what we saw in Edmonton with those 2 players.
Dregs, how do you think the approach is going to be with Easton Cowan? I mean, it seemed like back when I was in junior, like some studs in junior came out of junior and they were good players in the NHL, sometimes right away. A lot of times right away, maybe a little bit of time, but they played with good players and they had opportunities. How do you see him what kind of opportunity do you think he's going to get? Is it going to be like top-line guys? Is he going to be a third-line player? Where do you see him slotting in camp?
Well, yeah, I think the window is wide open for him, to be honest here. And not dissimilar to you or any of the top players coming out of junior. You know, when you get to that place where, you know, are you ready for the pro game? Yeah, he looks like he's ready, but there's a difference between playing pro and being a top line or a top 9-minute guy in the National Hockey League. It's an enormous transition. But the issue I think that the Maple Leafs have is, what do they do with Easton Cowan if he's not playing in the National Hockey League? And how many times historically this time of year do we have that conversation with a handful of players around the National Hockey League where they've outgrown the Ontario Hockey League. Can't play in the American League. Fraser Minton's different, right? Like, Fraser Minton's going to be playing pro, and now they can utilize and put him in the American League and see how he develops there if he doesn't flat out earn a spot and an extended look. Easton Cowan's going to get the maximum look at the NHL level, and then Tree Living and Company are going to have to make a call after that. But they loved the year that he had in the Ontario League last year. Looks like he's had a real good off season of training. I mean, most players do in today's game, and they're excited about the rookie camp and about the regular season main camp coming up as well.
Drag, so we saw the PTOs kind of going throughout the league. Any more movement on PTOs? And do you think Tree is done? Just adding Pacioretty here on a PTO.
I think he's done, but I'm not 100% certain of that. And one thing we know about Brad Treliving, whether it's free agent conversations, PTO negotiations, trade conversations, he's in on all of that. There seems to be a little bit of speculation out there that they think that there's a wink, nudge, nudge. Hey, Pacioretty's coming in on a PTO, but as soon as the Maple Leafs get their cap sorted out, whether it's through LTI or another means, that he's going to land a one-year contract. And that's just not the case. That's not to say that he isn't going to get a good hard look. They wouldn't waste Max Pacioretty's time. They certainly have enough respect for him. And I think it's important to note, too, last couple of summers, because of significant injury, Pacioretty wasn't able to train the way that he would have liked to train. Well, this summer, he did. He trained. And so the expectation is that he's going to be good to go. And I guess what that does is put some heat on some of the other players that are vying for a spot on that left side. We talked about Nicky Robertson and whether or not he's going to seize opportunity, because there's nothing but opportunity here for Robertson with a new coach in Craig Berube, but he needs to be pushed. And Max Pacioretty can be a player who pushes the young guys. Well, then maybe you do have to have that conversation about signing him to that 1 year, but there's no promises for Max Pacioretty, even though, again, there's a healthy respect for his hockey resume.
I have respect for his resume as well. Kind of just answer my question. I was like, why that player? Like, was that the typical, like, it's a veteran guy who's a big guy who can skate and maybe score us 15 goals this year? Is that why? Pretty
much. And a lot of what I said about how this offseason, he was able to put in the time and put in the work. And I think above all else, and you guys tell me, how important is this at that age when the body responds the way you need it to respond, right? So he feels physically strong enough. Mentally, he still has jam. He wants to play. He loves playing in the National Hockey League. So if those two sides can align, maybe there's enough left in the tank. I don't think we saw it in Washington, in fairness to Pacioretty. I don't think we saw it. But I think the fact that, he had the offseason that he had, I think he's been skating, frankly, in Toronto for a while now, maybe 3-4 weeks. So there could have been enough intel there internally by training staff, by some of the players that he was working out with, et cetera, to go, hey, where's the risk in bringing him in on a PTO? And there wouldn't be much, if any, risk involved in that.
With Darren Dreger, our TSN Hockey Insider, I guess the page will turn here to RFAs who are still unsigned, like Swayman. There's a couple of pretty high-profile players in Detroit who are looking for deals. It's still early in the process. Camp hasn't opened. Everyone does the dance. Swayman is interesting, though, in particular, because how good the team is and how Ullmark's not there anymore. And, the Bruins have effectively made their bed. They're like, you're our guy. You are our man. Ullmark's not here. You're the guy. You played him out. And now he's like, it sounds as if he's like, that sounds great to me.
Now you're going to pay me.
Now you're going to pay me like I'm the man. I want to make, I'm expecting a lot of money. And all of a sudden the Bruins aren't willing to pay it. From that standpoint, like even with what I just said about this dance, it happens all the time. Considering the position and because they moved off Ullmark, are you surprised at all that they haven't had this figured out? Like, didn't have it figured out prior to even trading Ullmark what this deal is going to look like?
Yeah, a little bit. It puts them in a jam. There's no doubt about that. And, we've seen a ton of the numbers speculated, what's accurate, what isn't accurate. Good luck getting all of that from Don Sweeney's office. From a media perspective, it's just not happening. I've seen Charlie McAvoy's contract at 9.5 waved out there as, a number that Swayman and company are looking for. And look, if I'm in the Boston Bruins management, that makes me a little bit nervous. Yeah, of course, he's the anointed number one because they moved Linus Ullmark to the Ottawa Senators. But based on the body of work, even though he's a starting goaltender in the National Hockey League, yeah, they're a bit reticent to shell out that kind of money. But they made the moves that they made. Korpisalo is not going to take over the position of starting goaltender unless, Swayman is signed and gets hurt. So they've got an issue that doesn't necessarily need to be an issue. And what was it, about 2 weeks ago or so, didn't Cam Neely come out, who happens to be Don Sweeney's boss, and basically he just said, no, we're going to get this done. Well, that was a message to me that, he's applying a little pressure on Don Sweeney. You made the trade. We cleared the space that we needed to clear to get this guy signed. And Jeremy Swayman, I also think, I was curious about the position he took all offseason. Worked out in Boston, trained. He's been skating with those guys as if he is a Bruin. He is committed. He's not interested in sitting on the sidelines and not getting a deal done ASAP. So it does still feel like whatever that gap is, they're going to have to get over it, and they're going to have to get him signed here in the days ahead.
Yeah. Well, it's getting closer and closer, man.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
an interesting time of year. Like, that is for sure. And, the Ullmark scenario in Ottawa, I guess I'm sure they're talking about it there. Like, is he going to sign long-term? He's got a year left on his deal. There's been a lot of turnover in Ottawa, yet even with the turnover, it feels like it's quieted down there because I think people have realized I can't do this again with the hype every offseason. Like, even though they have a new coach, they have a new
which could be helpful as well.
I actually think that should benefit them. Like, don't talk
100%.
about expectations and this is it, make or break. Just try to stay under the radar as much as you can.
Yeah, and I think that the expectation is obvious, and it's just earned, right? But there wouldn't be a player in that lineup that is talking about the playoffs, even though it has to be a goal. And it would be a disappointment if they're not at least nibbling at a playoff spot. And with a serious upgrade in goal, which it appears that they've got that now, they've ticked some boxes here. They've changed the look in Ottawa, including the coaching staff. So we'll see how it plays out, but it's the same thing every year. Buffalo says they're better. Ottawa says they're better. So many teams in the East feel like they're better. Okay, well then who's worse? Who's dipping out of the playoff picture? So you have to look after your own. So I think there's a confidence in Ottawa, but they have learned in past years of disappointment, you can't be cocky, and they're not that.
I agree. Travis Green going in there, even the Nick Jensen move, I think that was under the radar.
Yeah.
They had a bunch of left shot defensemen, and you moved Chychrun for Jensen. That's what they believed they needed, was a top 4 right shot defenseman to play with Sanderson and or Shabbat.
Agreed.
But I think the pieces fit, but it comes back to it, and Hayes brought it up with Strutty after he was selling his shelves, was talking about the Atlantic Division and the Pacific Division. You look at there's a lot of teams that we pretty much can predict. Okay, that team looks good. This team on paper looks solid. When you look at that Atlantic, you're right. I think Montreal, the expectation is they get better, but they're not a playoff team. I think that would be fair. I think pretty much. Yeah. But everybody else, for me, at some point has to be on the table. Whether they achieve it or not, whether it's Ottawa, Buffalo, Detroit, and then you add in the three, the three big ones right above them. 3 or 4.
4 of them, Tampa, Toronto.
Noodles, they also have
Tampa,
to have an understanding that the good teams in the division in the Atlantic, it's not like they're a bunch of dinosaurs. You know what I mean?
No.
Matthews and Barkov and Point and Kucherov, they're not 35 years old. They're not going anywhere for a while.
Right.
So you got to get going.
Yeah. It's an interesting division, and right now, and we haven't talked a lot about it, but I'm looking at the Detroit Red Wings, and everybody's watching what's going on with Seider and Lucas Raymond, of course. Raymond went to Sweden. I know he was in Germany training with Dallas Eakins, and it sounds like he's coming back to Germany to continue to train. But when's the last time the Red Wings made the playoffs? Like 8-9 years ago? Mm-hmm. Like, I have nothing but respect for Steve Yzerman. Holy smokes. Do you go into the season with a threat of those two guys not in the lineup? Like, I mean,
look at their goaltending too in Detroit. Like, what are they
four,
doing?
man.
They've got 4 guys.
Right.
That four
backups.
You know what they say about having 4 guys? You got none.
Exactly.
You don't have one. Yeah.
That's what it feels like, man. It's just like it's a weird way of going about it. It's like Stevie was on the waiver wire. He's like, "I'll take it. I'll take that guy.
Yeah.
I'll take that guy."
Yeah.
I mean, they're decent players, and one of them's going to have to step up, or 2 of them anyway. But
Right.
it's a weird process because they're 4 veteran guys who've been in the league, and only 2 of them are going to play every night.
Yeah.
All right, Trex. Good to have you back in the swing of things, pal. We'll do it again soon.
All right, boys. Have a great week.
There's Darren Dreger, a TSN Hockey Insider, joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Check out Maple Toyota's huge truck and SUV lineup, including Tundra, 4Runner, Highlander, and Grand Highlander, in stock and ready to deliver. Visit mapletoyota.com. Yeah, I got to look up their 4 goalies. Noodles, you
I
might
got
know
them
them.
for you.
Okay.
Yeah, well, it's Cam Talbot, who they signed in the offseason.
Mm-hmm.
So Talbot played, in L.A., played well last year.
Yes.
But he's 36, coming 37, I
Mm-hmm.
believe. Alex Lyon, who, carved out a niche for himself there in Florida. And then into Detroit last year. Ville Husso, Rick
Clouseau, yeah, from St. Louis.
We
Close
loved him
boy.
a while back.
We sure did. We don't anymore.
And Jack Campbell.
Yeah, exactly. That's their 4 goalies.
I don't want any of them. Sorry.
Unfortunately, I'm not sure I do either. Talbot had a pretty good year last year. But
and Talbot's a good player. I think Husso's a good player, but he's been injured for a year and a half. So I don't know if he's in the mix. Lyon, to me, is a 2. And Jack Campbell.
Hey, no, Noodles. Hang on a sec. Which one of those guys, if you were the goaltending coach and you wanted to whisper in a guy's ear saying, Stevie Y wants you to play game 1, which one of those guys are you going to say that to? I don't even know if you can pick one.
It's Cam Talbot for me right now just because of recency bias. He played in the league last year and was pretty damn good. Alex Lyon had stretches, but again, I see him as a 2. It's the guy. Ville Husso is probably the disappointment there. Remember, he signed Stevie Y got him out of St. Louis. And he played 44 games that year and was a really good goaltender, outplayed Binnington. But he went there and got injured, and then he's never gotten back on track. I don't even know his health status right now. I'll have to check. And then Jack Campbell, that's just a local guy you're giving a start-over contract to because he got paid. He got bought out, right? So
they'll be in the minors. He'll play for Detroit or whatever it is, Grand Rapids.
Yeah, it's a 4-pack. But you're right. That's Cam Talbot's net to lose, in my opinion. And he's, 36, 37?
Yeah. That's why, again, I just don't think Detroit scares anybody. Like, they brought Kane back, and then they signed Tarasenko, which to me was strange as well. I can't figure out what Steve Yzerman's doing. I honestly don't know how. He's been there a long time, and that team, to me, is not – like, they were in a playoff position in a playoff fight really throughout the season, and then they just faded down the stretch.
Dude, they had one locked up, it seemed like, at a point.
It did.
They pissed it away in a
faded.
2-week stretch. It was gone.
Yeah, but I don't feel great about Detroit, man.
No, and if their top player, like if Raymond and Sider, like if they're not under contract, to me, I don't know, man. Like they just don't
scare you. Like they might be hanging around, they'll pick up some wins, and they might be in the fight. But if you're Florida, Boston, Toronto, Tampa, they do not scare you. They don't scare you. Ottawa doesn't scare you. Buffalo doesn't scare you. Montreal doesn't scare you. It's on those teams to scare those guys. Like that. Right. That is ultimately the goal if you're in those 4 markets. We have to try to catch up and scare one of these guys.
I don't even know if you need, scare is one thing, but how about just you're not coming into our building and putting 2 points in your jeans for fun like you've been doing the last 5 years? Yeah, that's a start. That's a better start than scaring.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is scaring them into thinking that their playoff security is maybe at stake. Where, I don't know. I mean,
yeah, again, I guess you might as well bypass everything and just say, screw it. Our team, Detroit or Ottawa or Buffalo, we're in.
We're here to win. Well, we're going to the playoffs and we're going to do it. So someone's leaving the playoff picture.
Right. And eventually that's going to happen, you believe. But like you say, until it happens, you're going, well, who's coming out? That's the biggest question.
We've been doing this dance, Noodles, for a long time, it seems like, where it's like, these guys are pushing, they're pushing. And we generally, over the last 4 or 5 years, we get to the same spot at the end of the season.
Yeah. Well, that's the question. Like, which of Detroit, Buffalo, Ottawa, Montreal, life on the line, you had to pick one to make the playoffs. Who would you pick?
Right now, if Ullmark stops pucks, I got to take Ottawa.
I'm saying Ottawa, slightly biased because I see him every night. But if Ullmark gives them saves, that was one of their things. They were last in save percentage last year in the league.
That's bad.
And that's New Jersey. I think they edged New Jersey out. Like it was in that 31-32. So
that's really ugly.
If you get 16th in the league in goals against, maybe you're in on.
You got a shot. Yep, you definitely got a shot. I would think Buffalo would probably say the same thing. We get kind of upper echelon goaltending. Like I think Buffalo felt good in the second half. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But losing Skinner, you'd have to look. They traded away Middlestad. They let Skinner go, get rid of Skinner. Now you got Ryan McLeod, but he's, for me, is top 9 type of player. I don't know, did they get better on paper or worse or just younger,
They're just it's just the same. And now Lindy Ruff is back and they're trying to get nostalgic with that. And I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't feel good about any of them. I really don't to make the playoffs. I don't. But that's why you play the games.
We should chunk 500 at the beginning of the season. We all get one pony, and we got to ride with them.
Okay.
One of the teams gets in, we get the cash.
That's a good call.
Well, then you guys got to. I have to have Ottawa. I'm calling
fine.
Yeah, okay, fine. You can have Ottawa. You can have Ottawa.
Well, I'm going to take Buffalo. I'm going to take Buffalo, and then I'm calling Ottawa. People are going to be like, "What the hell are you doing?" I'm taking.
You're on Ottawa.
Ottawa's,
You're on Buffalo.
That's my
and
team.
You got the Red Hawks.
I got Cam Talbot. I got Jack Campbell and the Red Wings.
No, you can have Montreal and Detroit.
I get both Detroit and Montreal. You give me 2 ponies?
Why do I?
He gets 2
Come
for
on,
1.
dude.
I got the last pick. That counts as a snake.
That's fair. 2
It
for
snakes
1.
back around. Whoever had the last pick.
You got to pick. You got Detroit.
I would take Detroit over Montreal. I don't think Montreal's ready.
You get 2 for 1. That's what it is. So you can have 2 for 1. I get Ottawa. He gets Buffalo. And we see, you know what?
Okay.
You put 500 in. The closest to the playoffs gets 500.
Closest
Either they make it or they don't.
Okay.
Either or. The highest point total out of those 4 teams.
All right. Last year was Detroit.
Okay.
By a
there
pretty
you go.
substantial margin, actually. They had 7 more points than Buffalo.
There you go.
All right.
All right.
Okay,
I like that.
We'll do it. Let's do it. We're really doing it. Role play level of concern still to come. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.
You can never ask me to stop drinking. Do you understand?
I do. I really do.
All right, role play level of concern brought to you by Boston Pizza, the best meal. Plus, for the month of September, kids eat free with minimum purchase when you dine in. So grab the kids and hustle into your local BP tonight. Role play level of concern. Haven't played this in a while. Very exciting stuff. Very exciting stuff. All right,
I know I usually get a doozy off the hop.
No, this one I think is reasonable. I think I'm actually very curious to see how you're going to answer this.
Yeah.
Oh, you're playing the role of Easton Cowan. What is your level of concern? The Maple Leafs have already made up their mind, and you're heading back to junior. They've already made up their minds.
That is a pint on the patio. That can't be true.
Okay.
How could you say that, Maple Leafs, a.k.a. Bryan Hayes? You said yesterday I had one of the best junior seasons that can ever be had.
I'm a big fan. But there's a salary cap. There's other
the
players.
Long game.
There's the long game. There's development. You only have 2 options, NHL or junior.
I'm still a pint on the patio because I believe Max Pacioretty, good NHL player, has been around a long time. Tricky Nicky Robertson, he's been around a bit. He can pot some goals. But at the end of the day, I think I can step in, and you might find this hard to believe, I'm better than them. And I'll earn a spot and show I deserve to play ahead of them. Because that's the only way this works.
I like that.
Because I have to go in and say, that's the better option to play ahead. That kid right there. That's the better player. Forget about the jersey. We're not looking at a driver's license. That player right there is better, and that's what I'm going to prove.
Let me ask you a question, Easton Cowan. Do you think you can play center in the NHL at any point?
I don't want to.
Wow. What a statement. That's breaking news, Doogie. Blast that out. Easton Cowan.
Where did he play last year?
He plays
wing.
up the middle of the ice a lot. I think he kind of went back and forth. When he was on the junior team, he was playing on the wing. But I think he's got the capability of playing up the middle.
I like him
not a
as,
huge
in like
guy.
a Patrick Kane type of like spotlight where it's like a playmaking winger, dynamic playmaking winger.
Yeah.
Without the responsibility of a centerman.
I agree. Yep, that's the comparison. Travis Konechny, a left shot Travis Konechny type. Just,
Bingo.
plays with some you-know-what and vinegar, pots some goals, some points. Love it.
Some jam.
Some jam.
I'm not in. You didn't ask me that, right? You're asking me. The
No,
next one?
we asked Easton Cowan that. Noodles, you're playing the role of the Vancouver Canucks. All right, you're the whole franchise or the whole fan base. What is your level of concern? Thatcher Demko's health status is going to make your season a challenge.
Rick Bushwood.
6 Bush Light, 6 Bud Light, and I love them, tall boys.
Holy crap.
You guys know. I mean, he's going to win a Vezina. Now, if he stays healthy, it might be next year. Like, he's that good of a goaltender. And he's shown flashes of it. But
Is he not going to be ready for camp?
He's hurt all the time, man. He's hurt right now, but it doesn't mean anything. The season doesn't begin for a month. But I don't get the impression he'll be flying day one of camp.
Remember in the playoffs, it was like, he's skating.
Yeah.
He's maybe coming around, and then it never saw him.
No.
Well, I think that was more gamesmanship. I don't know how close he was to it. They had Sheloff in net there. And I am Rick Bushwood, and you might add in maybe 2 shots of Sambuca or something like that on top of it. Because just you look at that organization, I think they made some really nifty moves in the offseason. They're deep up front. They got good D, big D. And the goaltending, if Demko can stay healthy, that team doesn't have any weaknesses.
Yeah.
But the giant if, and it comes back to his health within the organization. That's why I'm Rick Bushwood and a couple Sambuca shots.
I wouldn't argue against that, man. I mean, listen, last year everything broke their way. They had a great season.
Yeah.
And they hit the ground running. But there's an element of you got to prove you can keep doing that for me in Vancouver. Like, I like the way they're built, but you got to do it again. Like the prior to last year, they were kind of in no man's land for a long time, trying to figure out who they are and putting pieces together, and everything clicked and they were great. But they got to do it again. And, Edmonton's going to be good. I think Vegas will be pretty good. LA should be pretty good. We've talked about that division. But there's a real opportunity for Vancouver. Get off to a hot start. You should cruise to the playoffs. But you got to make sure you start that way. And goaltending is a huge part of it. So I think that's reasonable. All right, I'm playing the role of New York Jet fans. New York Jet fans. Uh-oh. What is my level of concern? It's going to be a disaster of a season again. There's concern here. There is absolutely concern. Because I'm a Jet fan, I know their history. I know the way this always works. They never make the playoffs. They always screw it up. They're always full of hype.
Disaster.
I'm going to go. Do we have any Stevie Caldwell back there?
A couple of whiskeys and 5 or 6 beers.
Yeah, I'm Stevie. I'm Stevie somewhere
You just
Midtown
wanted
Manhattan.
to hear that.
I wanted to hear Stephen Caldwell. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't even know where that ranks in the spectrum of role play level of concern, but I wanted to hear Stevie.
It's to a point. Stevie Caldwell is to a point where you want to take the edge off of about it.
That's exactly it, because that performance on Monday was horrendous. Like, horrendous. And it's getting worse. Like, I've seen guys break down the tape and put stuff online. No Christian McCaffrey, and that team ran all over the Jets.
I know.
Like,
and that guy's good
them
for 7 or 14 men.
every time. And he was out of the lineup in the run game, destroyed the Jets. And Saleh was back in San Fran, and that's his former team, and he knows Shanahan. And they got embarrassed. And you look at Rodgers, he was tentative. There's going to be nerves there. Like, he is nervous about that Achilles. Naturally, that is a human instinct. Like, that is a natural reaction when you come off something as really, difficult as the process of rehabbing a ruptured or torn Achilles. They were conservative. They got a brutal offensive coordinator. I don't know. I'm nervous. If I'm in New York, I'm totally nervous.
Well,
Bills are 1-0. Miami's 1-0. One of those teams will be 2-0 on Thursday night. You're chasing it right off the bat.
Did Rodgers take a shot at the fans or try and tell them?
Well, he gave it the old, if you want to jump off the bandwagon, like, he's got to be careful because that doesn't fly in New York, man. Doing the relaxed thing.
Chew on it, man.
Yes. Hey, we lost. We didn't play well. We'll be fine. But you start scolding Jet fans on, like, you jump off the bandwagon, you're not welcome back. That does not fly in New York.
Dude, you tried doing that with a guy with the fire hat on? Like,
yeah. No way, man. They've been through pain. Like, it's so like Leaf fans. Like, they've been through it a lot. Like, the Jets last won the Super Bowl in the 60s. They haven't been in the playoffs in forever. And they're excited about Rodgers being there, but it's not Green Bay anymore. You can't play off success in a Super Bowl ring in Green Bay and tell everyone to relax. New York's a totally different beast. And, yeah, he was telling everyone, basically, if you're jumping off, stay off. And I don't think that's a smart play, man. I think he's got to be careful in that city. All right, you're playing the role of Bo Bichette. Bo Bichette, what is your level of concern? You may want the Jays, but the Jays may not want you anymore.
I'm pretty much back in the champagne room with Aloha, like getting crushed.
That's a new level of concern as well that's been established.
Yeah,
Aloha. I forgot about the lovely Aloha.
That's right.
Aloha.
Champagne room crushed, going over things.
Okay.
Concerned. Because
it's a lot of concern.
It is. He might be like, yeah, you know what? Vladdy is my guy, but maybe the whole time they're like, you're not our guy. How many rumblings have you heard like Bo Bichette's? He was apparently being shopped with Vladdy in the summer during the winter during the Ohtani hunt, which was probably part and parcel with the Ohtani hunt. But maybe sometimes you just look at the injuries and a couple bad years in a row and you're like, maybe no thanks. Maybe we don't want to unload the money with you. We'll do it with Vladdy. You want to be here, but maybe not so much for us. We'll look for something different.
Yeah.
I think it's Aloha Champagne Lounge.
It could be. That's the other side of the coin, right? Like, Bo put a stake in the ground this week. I want to be a J. I plan on being here forever. Takes two to tango.
Yeah, and how many times have you heard the organization say, I love this guy, but the guy hears that, he's like, I'm not even coming back here.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot going on in the city like that. Hey, I want to be around, and the team's like, we'll get to you when we get to you. Like, we're not saying anything publicly right now. Yeah. That could be the case with Bo Bichette. And heartbreak down at the Dome this afternoon. Bowden Francis had a no-hitter going into the ninth inning for the second time in 18 days. And Francisco,
it's impressive, though.
Yeah, it's incredibly impressive. Francisco Lindor went deep on him. Like, the first batter he faced in the ninth inning, he gave up a home run. And now the Mets are up 6-1. He's not even going to get the win. They're just going to get dummied, and the game's going to be over, and that's it. Bowden Francis, the last time they went on to win the game. This time they're going to go on to lose the game. But Francis is a beast, man. 2 no-hitters into the ninth inning in 18
is he
days.
Drafted and like
no, they acquired him. We look up the backstory on Francis because he's been kind of kicking around this team. And coming into the season, he was a guy that, in training camp or in spring training, they're like, yeah, he's got a shot to be.
Didn't he start off horribly?
Yeah. What was the background? The Rowdy Tellez trade. Okay, so they acquired him in the Tellez deal. So that would have been coming from Milwaukee, I guess.
Winner chicken dinner.
Yeah. And Rowdy was okay as a Brewer early on, but exactly, if this guy has hit and found something here, because that'll be something they got to figure out when they start game planning their rotation next season. What is August and September worth for a guy that prior to August and September had some talent and shown some flashes, but was not a guy you were, building around or banking on giving you 32, 33 starts a year.
Dude, if he keeps this up through the rest of September.
That's what I'm saying, though.
How could you not go into next season thinking this guy's bordering on our ace?
Could be the man, but that can be dangerous. You show up in the spring, and it's like, actually, that was just an unbelievable 10-start run. Yeah, exactly. I had everything going for me. I was on fire. That's why you get paid money to evaluate and basically project what's going to happen. All right, Noodles, you are playing the role of Fox Sports executives. What is your level of concern Tom Brady is going to struggle in the booth throughout the whole season?
Be honest.
Okay, it's not.
Don't do the color guy kind of fraternity.
No, I am, but I think, listen, Tom Brady, whatever he puts his mind to, he will be good. It's just going to take a bit of time. So I am going to be Rick Bushwood again.
Okay.
6 Bush Light, 6 Bud Light, and I love them, tall boys.
I was going to say play it, but it's too I don't think they're concerned, but they're not that concerned going, it's one game. Like, think of everybody's first time on TV or radio or you name it. Like, it's it's a train wreck. Like to me, I think that they're going to give him a little bit of a longer run. The problem is such a huge platform.
He's
not on a
you can't hide,
podcast
man. You can't hide. It's the America's Game of the Week on Fox.
I know. Yeah,
but
it's Rick Bushwood and maybe throw in a couple shots there
again.
too. Again,
I agree with you, man. And now I wonder what week 2 is, because he's heard the criticism. I'm sure people are working with him on Fox, but if you swing it the other way, that will be worse. You can't be like yelling and screaming out of the gate and trying to tell stories
but it's phony then. It would be phony.
You can't go all the way the other way. You got to continue to just work on the craft that is Tom Brady, like who you are and how you operate.
Dude, you got to just there's a way to go about it. You just watch Aikman over Collinsworth, and you just say, and you sit down with smart people that know football and know watching, and say, what about that was good? What about the delivery? What about the timing? What about what he said is good? Just everything. And if you just focus on that, I think the one thing that I had to do that Tom definitely has to do, and he might have done this in his first game, sometimes when you start doing this, you think you have to talk like a broadcaster.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I am not a news weather guy.
Right, you're not Ron Burgundy or
That's
something.
right. And when you think you have to do that to do the job, you're here to be yourself and, fill in with knowledge because you played sports and you were around sports, but you're not a typical broadcaster. Like James Duthie is probably the best broadcaster in North America. But
he's a broadcaster.
That's right. He is a traditional broadcaster. He's the best there is. But he's a broadcaster. He does, and he adds in the humor, and he's just the best.
Mm-hmm.
But he's got Tom Brady, the best quarterback in the world, can't talk like a broadcaster, if that makes sense.
Especially as a color analyst. Like, you're not, like the play-by-play guy's going to have a great sound. Burkhardt and Nance and Buck, they're going to sound great.
Yeah. You talked about that play in Detroit where Collinsworth was like, that pass from Stafford, wait until you see this. Like, he hyped it up, he talked it up, and it was just like little stuff like that where you got to just be like,
right.
Got to be on it. Yeah, you have to be.
But I think half of it is his timing. If he gets his timing down, then he'll deliver some good information. The guy knows the game inside and out. He'll be able to, it's just about delivering the information and having somewhat of a personality. What if he's just a stiff?
Well,
that's the thing. What
exactly
if he's just
like maybe he's just doesn't have the sense of humor. He doesn't have, the gift for gab is a part of it. That's the filler. That's the spontaneity that you need, like where it's, hey, you got to have a little zinger there. Someone ran on the field. You got a quick comment. Hey, there's Andy Reid with his hat backwards. Do you have something you can say about that that's funny?
Yeah, you can't sit back and wait. Like, Noodles, I hear you talking about fun stuff and stuff you see in the stands or whatever. You just can't be waiting for a quality throw from the quarterback to say that was the right read.
Exactly.
You got to mix in a little bit of everything.
You got to have more than that.
You got to give the atmosphere. You got to paint the atmosphere. We got to get into Miami's coach there too.
Oh, Mike McDaniel. Okay, we'll get into that. Okay, we'll come back and talk about it. Role play level of concern brought to you by Boston Pizza, the best place for any family meal. Plus, for the month of September, kids eat free with minimum purchase when you dine in. So grab the kids and hustle in your local BP tonight. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, Steve Weich of NFL Network will join us. We'll play the Mike McDaniel clip at 6 p.m., and I'm seeing some clips coming in here. Matt LaFleur, Packers head coach, saying that the door is not completely closed on Jordan Love playing this week.
I think that's crazy, man.
That sounds crazy.
That sounds panicky and crazy.
Yeah. Now, he said he'd have to be cleared. Is this a mind game thing? They're playing the Colts. Is this kind of like Shanahan and McCaffrey? Like, well, he might play.
Was there any fallout from that from the league?
I haven't seen anything.
Poor kid was like, this is why I don't talk to the media.
Yeah, no, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I can't imagine he's going to play, but at the same time, it would be a pretty wild scene. Like, it is a long week. They played on Friday, but also the travel. Like, and I don't know how you rehab like an MCL issue. Not sure how you even do that.
If it's a sprain, they might just give it a little bit of Toradol or some sort of drug to help it along a little bit.
Dangerous game, man.
I know.
Doing that garbage.
But that's football too, right? Like we talked about it with Deshaun Watson. If you can play, like if they clear you and say you can play, you're like supposed to play in the NFL.
Yeah.
You're supposed to play, especially at that position. Coming off a loss where every week counts, like they need him to play, but I don't know what that will look like. Like he's a relatively mobile quarterback. You take that out of like his ability to scramble and run, that's dangerous, man.
Well, do you want to see him play? Like just as a Packers fan, do you want to see him play?
But I don't want him to risk further injury.
Exactly.
Right? Like that's if you can tell me he'll be back in 3 weeks and he'll be fine and ready to go, or 50-50 plays and does something bad and is done for the year, I'd probably wait. But you look at the Packers' schedule, it's like the next 3 weeks or 3 games they should be able to get with a healthy team. After that, it gets really tough. Really tough.
Yeah.
And they're in a really tough division. So we'll see. We'll play that audio. We'll get into it. Steve Weich coming up of the NFL Network. Hour 3 coming up. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.